All right, let's get started with the areas of the horse inspection. Right. Thank you, Jairo, for your collaboration. Okay, let's do a staging of what really occurs in the Prepista. So, to get started, the rider must always come wearing a hat, a white shirt, or he can wear a jacket over the shirt as well. It is not permitted for shirts to have logos printed on them. The rider can wear jeans or black dress pants and must bring their zamarros, long show chaps, with them. The only exception for the zamarros is in the geldings class, where they are not required. What is required is the white shirt or white shirt and jacket, jeans or black pants, and leather shoes. I would like to emphasize that the trainer must always wear a white hat. The same goes for the groomer handler. It is never acceptable for anyone to present themselves wearing a baseball cap. At this moment, we can observe that this mare is wearing a very typical headgear. What are we looking for? That this bridle isn't in different colors, but rather a natural color and leather on the straps. The bozal must be a maximum of 2.5 centimeters in width. It cannot be round, or can it be made of lycra or any other material. The barbada must be flexible. It cannot ever be made of a tortuous material, nor can it be made of strings or ties. It cannot have any type of hard material, like a plate, or anything rough and tortuous, present in the center of the barbada, even if it is wrapped or has been covered somehow, because it is too hard or tortuous. The line must always be made of leather. It cannot be composed of different colors. It can only be black or natural in color. All right, the next thing we begin to verify is the registration certificate. Unfortunately, we do not have an actual registration certificate available. But what are we looking for? The first thing we look for is to match the microchip to the registration certificate and to verify that it is signed up for the correct category. So, what information are we looking at on the registration certificate? This is a microchip reader, so we verify that the number that appears here is the same as the number appearing on the registration certificate. The registration certificate also indicates the modality. Let's remember that P1 is for trote y galope, P2 is for trocha y galope, P3 is for trocha pura, and P4 is paso fino. We must take into account that the registration, if the horse is less than 6 years old, the horse can compete either in trocha y galope or trocha pura or trote y galope, because his modality may not have been defined yet. Until the horse reaches 60 months or 5 years of age, the owner is allowed to change the modality that is recorded on the registration certificate. If by chance it needs to be changed after the 60 months of age, then a letter must be submitted to Fedequinas or to any of the regional associations where the horse will compete to request the change of modality. The next part is to check that the horse's name matches the one printed on the registration certificate and is in accordance with the number on the microchip. Once this part is complete, we move on to the inspection of the horse.
We are now going to observe the ears. They can't be fallen or deformed. They should not have any cuts, yet a small type of scissor cut is allowed in case of an accident. Sometimes we are told in Prepista that a dog bit a horse or the horse got caught in a wire. So a small scissor type cut is permitted as long as it doesn't compromise the horse's aesthetic. But no abnormality is allowed. Another thing we observe is the eyes to check for any problems or difference in color. Both eyes must have the same color and not have white overlay. A halo is allowed, which is sometimes referred to as silver eye, but cannot have a different eye color. The other area we look at is the face. for any deformation or osteodystrophy. This stems from an imbalance between calcium and phosphorus that causes swelling in the face, especially in colts and fillies. It is due to a nutritional deficiency and also that mineral deficiency of the ratio of calcium to phosphorus.
Sobre todo en los potros, por una deficiencia alimenticia y sobre todo de los minerales.
The next part to observe is that the nostrils are adequate. Oh, and that there are no lesions or inflammations in the eyes or the eye area. Another part to verify if the mare cooperates with us today is to match the age on the registration certificate with the dental aid, so we can look to verify in accordance with the category of competition. For this, the veterinarian must be able to know a horse's age depending on the size and wearing away of the various types of teeth, and this age must match the age noted on the registration certificate. We must remember that a deviation of 6 months over or 6 months under the horse's actual age is permitted. If the ages do not match within that 6-month deviation allowance, the horse cannot participate in the competition. The registration certificate must be confiscated. A whole other process has to be started. Before we continue, I'd like to get back a little because it slipped my mind. If the horse does not already have a microchip, one can be implanted on that day. The horse will have to be genotyped, but will be allowed to compete. This is very important, Maritza, this part of the revision. Every time a horse's mouth is observed, it has to be checked for an overbite or an underbite. We can observe that this horse has a normal bite. When we refer to an overbite, we see that the inferior teeth are on the inside of the superior teeth to the point that light can seep through. If the top and bottom teeth touch and no light is observed in between, that means the horse can compete. This top position is an overbite and this bottom position is an underbite. Either with the overbite or the underbite, if the light seeps through the space between the bites, the horse cannot compete. After verifying the mouth, we move on to the neck and the legs. The veterinarian conducts a general examination, making use of their expertise and practice to see if there are any muscular deformations or muscular atrophies, any abscesses, to see that none of the extremities have any inflammation. Many times, things can be caused through an accident in transporting to the competition. The veterinarian will decide whether to allow the horse to enter a competition or not, depending on the type of inflammation. On another note, horses are not allowed to enter with ankle weights. Let's move on to examine the hooves. What do we look for in the hooves? We don't want to find any lesions. The most important thing is that all the horseshoes must be flat and made of the same material. That is very, very important. They cannot have orthopedic shoeing or any type of aids on the shoes. Small lips along the sides are allowed to a certain extent. The maximum measurement of a hoof should be from the crown, including the horseshoe, at 8.5 centimeters. The horseshoe can measure a maximum of 1 centimeter and a minimum of 0.7 millimeters. And on the posterior side, it can measure 4.25 centimeters from the heel to the bottom of the horseshoe. The reason for that is that when their height is measured, the many elements of shoeing do not influence the minimum height requirements of the horse. Again, all 4 horseshoes must be made of the same material, not orthopedic, and observing the correct measurements. Again, all 4 horseshoes must be made of the same material, not be orthopedic, and observing the correct measurements. Next, we check for dipping of the back, for fractures of the ribs, for any other fractures along the body, for an uneven rump due to a muscular atrophy of the rump, or a fracture of the hip. The measurement allowance for dipping on mares is maximum 12 centimeters because they must carry great weight inside their womb, so they have a greater allowance. stallions and geldings are only allowed 8 centimeters. How is this measured exactly? It is very simple. Mauricio, you can help me here if you'd like. We place a string or the lead itself on the highest point of the crest and stretch it over to the top of the rump. Then we can measure with a small ruler at the deepest point of the dip to not exceed 8 centimeters on a male or 12 centimeters on a female.
Mayores se permite hasta los 12 centímetros. La otra parte que se verifica es
Another aspect to inspect in a mare is that she has both of her nipples, so they must be seen and touched to make sure they are both sound. As we move to the rear, we start to inspect the tail. We are looking for there to be no fractures, for the tail to have all of the vertebrae, for there to not be any external artifact. As of April 1st of 2018, they should not have the tail clipped from the top. The other thing we look for is to not find any muscular differences, that the rump is not uneven, that the lateral appearance be symmetrical and doesn't present any muscular differences. So we conduct a general inspection of the horse.